It's another stupid sci-fi civilization and an episode that feels like the video equivalent of bullying the special kid, leaving me unsure whether their inclusion is a bit of a low blow or if I should just fully commit and make them the series mascot. It's the Pakleds from Star Trek. We're going back to the next generation for another typical day in the aimless mission of the Federation Starship Enterprise, as they invite close encounters with all manner of nefarious alien species, and I'm not just talking about the hot alien broads Riker is trying to bang.
One wonders how your race has survived, having so much fun.
Move over Klingons, Cardassians, Romulans, and even the Borg Dominion, because we have a new villain that has aspirations to claim the title of supreme evil in the galaxy. It's just a shame their ambitions heavily outweigh their abilities. Point 1. The Pakleds are too stupid to be spacefaring. So the first meeting between the Federation and the Pakleds begins typically enough. The Enterprise, as they do every other episode, responding to a distress call, this time from a ship full of rotund alien dimwits. A species of intellectually challenged humanoids who have inexplicably managed to throw off the shackles of planetary confinement and voyaged into deep space.
As improbable as it sounds, that would appear to be the case.
In a vessel that initially appears to operate at sublight speeds.
Basic early design, capable of sublight travel only.
Which technically means the Enterprise should not be interacting with them at all, the Prime Directive prohibiting contact with pre-warp species. Luckily for the Pakleds, the Prime Directive is something Starfleet pays far more lip service to than they actually adhere to, so help is on the way.
I prefer to minimize the amount of time that contact lasts.
Their comparatively innocent appearance and simple repetitive manner of speech serve to obscure their devious and antagonistic nature.
We look for things.
What were you looking for?
Things we need. Things that make us go.
They basically have the energy of an intellectually challenged chubby bully who's made up for their deficiencies by turning into a violent thug, so the smarty pants won't be able to hurt them with their big intimidating words.
There is no clear evidence of an intelligence behind the phenomenon.
Unlike other dumbass sci-fi civilizations where I have to unpack the stupidity, with the Pakleds it's glaringly obvious, written on their faces and heard clearly in their words.
He is smart.
Though they are objectively stupid when compared to other spacefaring species, they're not quite as stupid as they initially appear.
They steal technology, but they lack the ability to use it properly.
But they patently don't have enough intellectual prowess to understand the concepts that underpin their technologies, let alone have the capacity to properly use or maintain them.
Do you honestly get the impression they could handle our technical specifications?
For example, they do have replicators, but don't understand how to use them to replicate basic weaponry.
You have a replicator?
It is not broken. You will make more.
Their ship's been a hodgepodge of technologies that they've managed to steal or otherwise grift from other more intelligent species.
Half the systems on board the ship have been stolen from the Romulans, Klingon, Harada, just about anyone they've ever come in contact with.
Valuing technological strength over all other concerns, the Pakleds repeat their ambitions incessantly like a slogan, as if breathing life into the idea will make their desires manifest.
Make us strong.
Come on, there's not enough juice in these to blow off a passing asteroid.
Do it. Make us strong.
You'd think if their goal was to be technologically advanced, they'd value intelligence, education, and engineering skills above all. But instead, they seem to acknowledge they'll need outside assistance to be strong.
We are smart.
We need their computer things.
An inadvertent admission that they simply do not possess the skills required to be an interstellar power. And accruing technology they fail to fundamentally understand won't change that.
You think we are not smart?
I think you need to continue to develop.
They'll be incapable of true technological advancement whether they have impressive technology or not. In their singular quest to assimilate new technology, they're like an even stupider version of the Borg. The Borg themselves correctly deeming the Pakleds unworthy of assimilation, but then apparently during a battle above Earth, desperately short on manpower, they did assimilate a few of them to bolster their forces. Wait, let me guess, they only brought one cube again. Actually, I think the Pakleds and Borg are a perfect match for each other. How the Pakleds managed to achieve space travel, let alone survive in deep space, is totally beyond me. Their only positive attribute being their physical resilience. One Pakled surviving the void of space for an extended period. Or maybe that's a recent evolutionary adaptation since they've been fumbling around in the void for who knows how long.
Is it the result of some natural evolutionary process?
The Pakleds are more reminiscent of a proto-human species, incapable of agriculture, let alone the capacity to develop technology for space travel.
How they ever mastered the rudiments of space travel is a genuine curiosity.
I can only assume they acquired their initial technology from a crashed alien ship, or perhaps they traded for it, because they sure as hell don't seem proficient enough to come up with anything themselves. At best, they could be successful hunter-gatherers, strong and intelligent enough to dominate the local fauna of their homeworld, nowhere near powerful enough to tango with the advanced civilizations of the greater cosmos, which, naturally, is proven to be the case. Point 2. They're picking fights with far more powerful civilizations. So the Enterprise crew respond to the Pakleds' distress call under the command of Riker. Picard on a trip to get his bum ticker fix, which I assume was a convenient measure to prevent the Pakleds from appearing even stupider. They'd have the intellectual prowess of an amoeba if they went up against the refined scholarly wiles of Jean-Luc Picard. Instead, they're set against aggro space caveman Riker, though admittedly he's still an Einstein by comparison. The Pakled ship appears to have failing power and navigation systems. Riker and co correctly determining they've encountered a pack of simpletons, so they send Geordi over to lend them his strength. But although they were correct in their assumption around the Pakleds' lack of mental capability, they still have the distinct embarrassment of being tricked by them. Their power and navigation systems are just fine, they're computer programmed to pump out false readings. A typical Pakled ruse, lulling their enemies into a false sense of security by feigning innocence, ignorance, and technological weakness, deceiving their victims into offering assistance in a bid to acquire their technology, information, and expertise. And they do this without any means of sabotaging or hindering the more powerful vessel. It's an idiotic gambit to say the least. So the Pakleds kidnap Geordi and threaten to kill him, forcing him to brew up weapons for them and trying to get the Enterprise to transfer over their database. But it's not a very well thought out plan, considering they didn't even have their own weapon to keep Geordi compliant. Forced to steal his phaser, and luckily it was set to stun. Don't you need this guy? He could have been vaporized. And don't tell me that leaving phasers on the stun setting is Starfleet's standard operating procedure, because I know they don't know that. The Pakleds seemingly intend to keep Geordi aboard indefinitely, failing to recognize that keeping a brain box of this magnitude enslaved on their ship would make his escape absolutely certain given a long enough time frame. Though it's clear now the Pakleds fake some of their shortcomings, it's still not clear whether their ship actually has a warp drive. But it's safe to assume they don't, since after securing their prisoner, they just sit around at the mercy of the far more powerful Enterprise. But despite deceiving the Enterprise with their initial ruse, while also thinking themselves too smart to be manipulated.
Do not try to trick us. You can tell.
Geordi and the crew formulate their own plan to deceive the Pakleds, which they communicate openly, though coded, right in front of the Pakleds.
And I guess you'll just have to arm your photon torpedoes without me.
As well as our hydrogen collectors.
Geordi whipping up some photon torpedoes to keep them happy, the Enterprise passing some gas from its nacelles, Geordi playing along and pretending the so-called Crimson Force Field has knocked out their weapons.
No, the Crimson Force Field has disarmed us.
And apparently the Pakleds didn't even bother to check whether that's actually true. And so they concede to the Enterprise and lower their shields, which frankly I'm shocked they actually know how to do.
Yes, we like shields.
And so concludes first contact between one of the dumbest and one of the smartest civilizations in the galaxy.
I do not care to repeat that experience.
The idiotic Pakleds picking a fight with a far more powerful civilization. They're just lucky this time it was the Federation. Wanting to be strong, yet failing to recognize their current lack of strength makes challenging one of the most powerful ships in the galaxy a foolish proposition. I've no idea how they survived their encounters with the Romulans and Klingons, who they've apparently pilfered some tech from before. At best, their distress call should have been ignored. At worst, they'd be blown into oblivion. Perhaps even before they'd had a chance to deceive anyone. I can only imagine the response had their ruse been carried out.
There is nothing wrong in choosing to live.
If their goal was to acquire more technology without offending anyone, they probably should have gone the Ferengi route and traded their way to prosperity and power. The Pakleds apparently do have trade ships.
We are Packled. Oh, we are honest traders.
But I suppose accomplishing that will require them to be capable of manufacturing or mining, which as the evidence suggests, they might not have their heads around. After their sole main appearance in Berman-era Trek, the Pakleds are also seen hanging out numerous times at DS9 enjoying a few drinks. And they also stupidly rescued psycho-android Lore from his exile in deep space.
If it hadn't been for a fortunate encounter with a Pakled trade ship, I'd still be out there.
But new Trek offering Lower Decks brings Pakled idiocy back with a vengeance, making them bolder, stronger, and dumber than ever, eliminating any doubt whatsoever as to the status of the Pakleds as hopeless cretins.
Oh no! It's another Enterprise!
The evidence including but not limited to capturing a mining colony and blowing up critical mining infrastructure after they've already secured it.
We need to hit the door with a saw!
Using a saw as a blunt instrument to beat down a door. And one unfortunate Pakled who mistakes an airlock for a toilet, blasting himself into the vacuum of space but not before making a mess on the airlock floor. And that's the least of it. Inexplicably, the typical Pakled ruse of playing victims seems to have worked to some extent, them now possessing somewhat powerful ships called clump ships comprised of tech from numerous species. And shockingly enough, these things are actually space-worthy, a legitimate threat, and they definitely have warp drive now.
We may have to resort to additional force.
Yet the idiocy continues.
Hey, those miners are stealing our snacks!
These ships being highly vulnerable to computer viruses as a result of their various technological systems failing to be integrated properly. Nowadays they don't play so innocent. Along with seizing mining colonies, they apparently hold a grudge over their incident with the Enterprise, attacking Federation ships on the regular and completely destroying the USS Solvang, murdering their entire crew and heavily damaging another vessel.
We are strong!
And apparently no amount of frenetic inane dialogue can defeat them.
I'm starting to think this jam session's got too many licks and not enough comp.
What does that even mean?
Escalating their previous conflict with the Federation, the Pakleds have now basically declared war on them.
That is a large step for someone whose mental abilities are still undisciplined.
But a handful of fancy new ships still won't make them anywhere near strong enough to go toe-to-toe with them. The fact that they're being manipulated by a rogue Klingon captain just makes it worse. Now they're just a patsy, falling for a deception yet again. Not sure whether it's worth pointing out that this group of Pakleds are rebels, because it isn't such an important distinction considering how politically unstable the Pakled homeworld is. These so-called rebels are only one helmet upgrade from being the rulers of their world anyway. Point 3. They destroy their world based on the assumption their enemies will help them. Welcome to the Pakleds' homeworld, Pakled Planet. It's about as inspirationally named as calling Earth's moon the moon or naming your two main islands North and South Island. Who would do that? Shockingly enough, the Pakleds aren't living in caves or mud huts, but gaudy golden cities.
That is a rather bold statement for someone in your position.
Totally at odds with the dysfunctional nature of Pakled society, though it does hint at their status as brash sociopathic simpletons.
Packled planet is big and strong.
I guess they just like shiny things because gold should be close to worthless to a warp-capable species. I'm gonna go ahead and assume they stole the gold and bullied another civilization into building their cities for them, because it's surely beyond their leadership, governed by a rather silly hierarchical structure ruled by a queen, king, and an emperor who outranks them both. Apparently the larger the helmet, the more power and prestige bestowed upon the Pakled.
Oh, your helmet is so big.
Lord helmet, what?
And you don't need to earn the helmet either. Nope, you can just take it.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
It's the most ham-fisted rule of the strong succession system I think we've seen yet. The rebels did at least kill the Emperor before putting on the big boy helmet and taking the throne. But is regicide actually required, or can I just swipe the helmet while he's taking a dump or something?
There is so much to learn for each of us today, isn't there?
With this being the caliber of political coup around here, it's not surprising that not long after, their world is destroyed, entering the honoured halls of dumbass sci-fi civilizations who got their world blowed up, the Pakleds surpassing both the Cyclos and even the Kryptonians by not just being culpable, but directly responsible for the deed. something they apparently did based on the belief that the Federation would be benevolent enough to relocate them to a resource-rich world.
What if this doesn't work? What do we do then?
Heavily relying on the generosity of a people who they've been assaulting, murdering, and deceiving for quite some time now. Not to mention, they originally planned to destroy Earth, and Starfleet is well aware of the plot thanks to their idiocy.
I didn't tell you anything about our big plan to smuggle a Veruvian bomb onto Earth.
Wow, okay, they're expecting quite a bit. The Pakleds operating under numerous faulty assumptions here. Firstly, that there's even a viable Pakled population left after they blew up their planet.
Surely there must have been a less extreme method of testing your assumptions.
And why on earth would the Pakleds expect an enemy to offer assistance, especially when they've proven they are far from helpless? Not to mention, they never even officially ask for help. They just frame a Starfleet captain, hoping that would be enough to see the Federation take action. Even if they fell for this latest ridiculous ruse, it's asking a lot considering the Pakleds are not even members of the Federation. Unless you count their inclusion as a Federation race in Star Trek Online, which I've yeeted from my headcanon, so that definitely ain't a thing. It's also arguably a violation of the Prime Directive to interfere with Pakled society to such a degree, post-warp or not.
That is a most logical interpretation.
Even if the Federation could play out their Prime Directive mental gymnastics and bring themselves to help the Pakleds. We've seen them attempt to relocate populations before, and when they survey for habitable worlds, or M-class planets as they're called, the abundance of resources never seems to be a concern. Habitability and proximity to aggressive species are usually the criteria they operate under.
Drago 4 features an unusually large temperate zone. However, it is within 3 light years of Cardassian space.
I'm not even sure why they need the Federation to search for M-class resource-rich planets for them. The Pakleds are a spacefaring race themselves, and M-class planets seem to be a dime a dozen in this Milky Way, even ones that are currently unoccupied. Though I guess it wouldn't shock me if they didn't have the tech or know-how to survey worlds properly.
We ain't found shit!
As suggested in a TNG episode, when the Duras sisters and this guy have been mining valuable ore that's just been sitting there in a system supposedly controlled by the Pakleds. With their world destroyed and their surveying abilities assumed non-existent, I just hope they've figured out how to maintain their ships themselves, because it looks like the few Pakleds that remain are going to be living in them from here on out.